Hello. Now, I've not uploaded for quite a while. Part of the reason is I've just not really felt motivated to do it. I've sat down in front of my phone to talk and I've just been lost for words. The other reason is I've not really had money to buy new knives. Now, if I'm honest, I've got quite a few knives that I've still not spoken about, but again, I've not really been motivated to talk about knives as of recent, in the last 6 months or so. Now, that's not to say I'm no longer interested in knives and multi-tools. Of course I absolutely am. I've still got all of my collection. I've got no plans on getting rid of it, and I still want to talk about knives on my channel. That said, my interest has seriously shifted. I'm really focusing on trying to buy the best possible tools that I personally can afford to do. That's not easy, but I'm just kind of sick of, I don't know if cheap tools is the right word to use, but just, and this isn't because I hate anyone or anything, it's nothing like that. I'm just sick of Asian made tools. I'm just getting fed up not knowing where things are made. So that's sort of what I want to talk about today. I've just been on this massive quest for the past, well, 6 months at least, to buy quality tools that could be passed down. That's something that's been increasingly more important to me, for a lot of reasons actually. In fact, let's just start off here with this saw here. Now, I know this is completely different from my usual topic, but woodworking is my hobby. It's probably my primary hobby, and going forward I'm wanting to spend a lot more time woodworking as well as repairing things. I mean, I like to I don't restore old tools, but I do like to clean them up, and I really enjoy making them usable to the best of my ability. So this is a lovely old dovetail saw, for example. This is an old, I think it's a Robert Sorbery. Yeah, it's a Robert Sorbery dovetail saw. This thing is probably 100 years old, and it's still got a lot of life in it. Now, when you look at a modern saw with hardened teeth, which most of them that you buy now have, you can only use that saw until it's blunt, and then you've got to throw it in the bin. And I don't really like this throwaway society. I don't like the cheap feel. I don't like the plastic handles. Now, that's not to say they're not well made. In fact, a lot of them are. I should have grabbed my Irwin Tenon Saw over there, but here we are. This has a beautiful sculpted beech handle, lovely brass back spine, and this is a tool that's built to last. It's made in Sheffield, England, and believe it or not, by the way, there is actually still traditional saw makers in Sheffield. There's only one left, and they're called Thomas Flynn. Now, in fact, I'll just grab that for you just quickly, because I've got a gent saw. This is a brand new made gent saw. It's another version of a dovetail saw, and don't worry, I'm not just going to talk about saws. There's other things here I think you'll like. I've started to get into Knipex tools. We'll look at that just shortly, and I'll explain my reasoning behind that. This is a brand new saw, and it might look expensive. I mean, it's got a beautiful turned walnut handle, brass back. This is a tool that's built to last, and I don't know if you'll be able to see the etch in there, but it is made in Sheffield by Thomas Flynn. Now, I bought this brand new last year for £20. That's really good for a saw that's going to last me my whole life, and I hope to pass it down. The thing is, a saw like this has been passed down because it was my granddad's. Now, he wasn't a woodworker. I don't know how he got it. I guess he picked it up at a boot sale or something, but these are the sort of tools that can be passed down. You're not going to pass down a saw that can't be resharpened. You're going to use it until it needs to be thrown in the bin. And for me, that's become really important, because we're sort of, well, the buy it, use it and throw it in the bin society is something I've really grown to dislike, as well as our reliance on other countries. And if I'm to be really honest, people who potentially hate us. I'm not about to sit here and hate on anyone. There's no point alienating anyone, but I think our reliance on countries in the East, especially in Asia, is honestly a bit irresponsible. I mean, look at the issues we've had the past 2 years with the whole COVID thing, whether you believe that or not. I'll just be honest, I think we've been fed a load of shit. If you believe what we're told, that's up to you. Nonetheless, it's affected everyone's lives in one way or another. It's disrupted supply chains, it's halted production, it's made everything more expensive. And now we've got this potential for a war, which is not great. And of course, I'm sure you've noticed fuel prices. Well, if we continue our reliance on foreign countries, I think this is just going to leave us in a really bad place. And of course, I'm not the only one saying this. A lot of the channels I like to watch have been saying this for a long time. And like I said, it's just downright irresponsible, in my view, relying on other countries. Now, that's not to say I don't want to buy from other countries. I'm just going to try and find an example. Well, Knipex, that's a great example. Made in Germany. These are probably some of the best pliers you can get. It's a pair of bolt cutters, but pliers, whatever. Probably some of the best of its kind. Leatherman, made in the USA. You know how much I love Leathermans from a foreign country, but at least the Americans don't hate us. We don't hate the Americans. I don't really hate anyone, but I don't see our supply being cut off from America quite as much as what I mean. Again, you know how much I love Victorinox, quality tools made to last. You can pass it on. Only just today I went to B&Q and bought some Weha screwdrivers. Now, I never thought in my life that I was going to pay that sort of money for a screwdriver, because I always thought it was stupid. But I'm kind of getting sick of my screwdrivers camming out and stripping in the screwdrivers because they're so soft. They're basically made of cheese. They just don't work. And that has just caused headaches with certain things I've been doing in my shed, and I'm kind of sick of it. So, and if I'm honest, high quality tools just make me happy. I mean, to me, it's an investment. I sort of feel that way about my knives. I mean, if you buy a cheap knife, well, I think most of us would rather spend a bit more money on our knives. And I think the same is true for all of our other tools. I think I might start talking about tools on my channel a bit more, especially since a lot of Leatherman guys also love Knipex. Now, I really did not think I was ever going to buy Knipex tools. In fact, I actually thought they were overhyped and a lot more expensive than they are. But a good friend of mine decided to buy a pair of these for himself. And I've got a really good friendship. Well, of course, I've got a good friendship with my friend, but anytime he gets a new tool, he always shows me. Anytime I get a new tool, I show him. It works out. The way I describe it is we basically feed off each other's bullshit. Because we could just talk about tools for hours and hours, because it's becoming more important to us. We're living in uncertain times. Do you really want to rely on crap, essentially, that's going to fall apart? So there's 2 or 3 reasons why I personally want to be investing in high quality tools like this, because, well, supply could be disrupted at any point. Now, yes, these are made in Germany. That's not exactly the UK, but it's the closest I can find, and it's the highest quality. And I don't think this is going to fail on me. This is the first pair of bolt cutters I've had in my life, but as of recent, I've seen a need for it, which is why I bought them. And by the way, I decided to see just how precise these are. To my sheer amazement, I was able to cut my beard with these. I mean, that's how good they are. I mean, that's German engineering right there. I don't know if you could do that with a pair of cheaper ones. Obviously, bolt cutters are not for trimming your beard, but I thought, well, it's German, they're supposed to be precise. Let's find out. And wow, they did. I couldn't believe it. Now, I kind of lost where I was going with that, actually. The supply, so there's the supply issue. There's the issue of if you buy cheaper tools, especially ones that are manufactured without care in Asia, they're a lot more likely to fail you. And something I've observed as of a lot more recently is you can tell if a company, be it a knife company or another tool company, actually cares about their products by the stamping. Now, again, I'm going to point to Knipex, but also the rest of these tools here. So they've got Knipex forged into the metal, as well as made in Germany here, and both of the handles say made in Germany, just to remind you. So that to me tells me that Knipex actually stand by their product and they actually care. That's a company that I want to support and I look forward to buying from in the future, because at least I know I can rely on that. Leatherman, stamped into the metal. They've got the Leatherman logo and the Wave logo as well. What else do I have here? Now, another thing that I've been really interested in, and this is what really gets me excited, for lack of better wording, is old British tools. So this is a 8-inch King Dick adjustable spanner. I have to say, I really love these old King Dick tools. Now that is the proper name. You can see it is marked King Dick. Look at that, British made. Now this is an old one. Now the good news is King Dick still actually produces a lot of their tools in the UK, but I think it's pretty much just spanners, not even adjustable spanners, just standard spanners, because I emailed them and they confirmed that most of their tools are made in the UK. They outsourced their pliers to Germany and the rest is made in China. I actually also emailed Footprint Tools while I was at it. They gave me a much better response. They confirmed that their clip hammer is manufactured in China, but all of their bolsters and chisels are manufactured in the UK, and they even invited me for a factory tour. So I'm hoping to do that with a good friend of mine. I personally don't have any of their tools. I was looking into getting a cold chisel for repairing hammers, because I really do enjoy fixing old hammers. I like to get the old hammer heads. So this is an old Stanley England, by the way, 12-ounce crosspeen. It was covered in rust and had no handle, and I had to remove some wood. So a cold chisel is good for that, with a drill of course. And this is a piece of ash that was felled in my neighbour's garden, so I cut this up with my chainsaw myself and made the handle. I'm not the greatest at woodworkers, but this is something I really enjoyed doing. I took what was essentially a useless piece of metal at the time, cleaned it up, made it useful, and I'm looking forward to a 100-year service from this tool. That is something I absolutely love. With my Leathermans, I'm looking forward to 100 years service of the tool. Gransfors Brooks, another company that I've never dealt with warranties from any company, and I hope I don't, but the fit and finish and just the detail in these tools tell me, in my mind anyway, that the company actually cares. The way that they've got Gransfors Brooks stamped into the hickory handle, the fact that they've got their logo stamped into the forged steel head, Gransfors Brooks, Sweden, that tells me that they care. This is a tool that will last longer than me. This is a tool that I hope I can pass down. I sort of came up with a funny line with a mate of mine, because we like to poke fun at Silverline tools, because my friend bought a Silverline pry bar to demolish pallets, and it basically bent the first pallet we took apart. It was pathetic. So what I like to say is, let me think, buy Knipex, because no one's going to get excited in 100 years time when they find a Silverline tool in Grandad's shed, because that's the truth. Where I'm going with this is, when I get handed a new tool, which happens periodically, or I find tools that I forgot I had that was given to me when I was younger. I've been doing this since I was about 14, so about 10 years I've been doing this. When I get handed an old tool and it's covered in rust, I don't really have a good example to hand, but I clean off the rust and I see the name, so let's just say Stanley England. Man, that gets me excited. Like, that to me is something special, because that tool has already stood the test of time, and once it's cleaned up and they've put a handle on it, it's ready for another 100-year service, as I like to say. Now, what I really like is woodworking planes. I have a massive soft spot for old woodworking planes, especially record. I've got absolutely no problem with Stanley planes. I just don't own any at the moment. I probably will someday. If I'm honest, I've got a bit of a gripe towards Stanley, because from what I've heard, Stanley is responsible for basically destroying Scottish plane makers. I bet a lot of you didn't know that. Scotland was really famous at one point for its hand tools, especially hand planes. But I'm a really big fan of these old record tools. It's a real shame that they're no longer produced in England. Thanks Irwin, because it was Irwin that sent production over to China, which is a real shame. But this is a lovely old record made in England, number 0220 block plane, and I've got a lot of work done with this. It's great for smoothing, but I really like it for doing chamfers and things like that. And again, I didn't have to do a lot to clean this up. Just took the rust off it, sharpened the blade, ready to go. I mean, I paid £30 for this. Now, again, unfortunately with woodworking planes, there's only one company that makes them in the UK currently, and that's Clifton. Now, to buy a Clifton block plane, that's £300. I cannot afford £300 to pay for something like this. So to pay £30 for this, and for me to be able to use this for the rest of my life and pass it down, well, to me that's something special. This is a tool that's made with care. Now, one thing that kind of really cheesed me off and kind of sparked me to make this video is Estwing. Now, you're going to be shocked to find out where this American hammer is made, because I was. This is made in Taiwan. That really rubbed me the wrong way. It really did, because I went out my way to seek out this hammer because I believed it was made in America. Now, do I have a problem with Taiwan? No, I don't care actually. I just want things made here, or at least in the West, because I think our reliance on the East is problematic and probably not a sensible thing to do, especially when we've got pandemics or the possibility of war. Could you imagine if Britain had no industries during the Second World War? Could you imagine if we had to rely on other countries to make our weapons, our Lee Enfields, our tanks? In fact, you know what? Give me a second. I need to show you something. I don't know how old this is, but I know that King Dick has been around since the 1800s. You can see right there, KD. I hope you can see that. But look at that. A lot of you military enthusiasts will know exactly what that is. That's the broad arrow, or the crow's foot. This is a British made tool used, well, maybe not so much by the military, but it's a government issue. You don't really see that now. Fun fact, by the way, apparently Aston Martin and McLaren actually still use King Dick. I thought that was quite cool. Now, look at the metal on that. It's just a real shame these are no longer made. I don't know why people don't appreciate these. I mean, some people collect them, and I'm certainly going to, because wow, this thing's a beast. This thing's an absolute chunk. It's well made, it's heavy. Excuse me. I am never going to break this. The only way I'm going... Sorry about that. The only way I'm going to break this is if I cut it in half with an angle grinder. And considering how thick that steel is, that's probably going to take 2 or 3 discs. And it'd be an absolute waste, of course. But I don't remember how much I got that for. Not a lot of money. It's kind of silly how much these cost on eBay compared to the car boot sales, but where I live, there's not really any car boot sales, especially ones that sell things like this, unfortunately. I live in Fife. If anyone does know of car boot sales or anything like that where I can find tools like this, I would absolutely love to know, especially cheap ones. Something else I was going to show you right here. This is one of the only footprint tools I actually do own. I'm not entirely sure what this is for, and I don't remember how I got it. I think my granddad gave it to me. This is a solid forged chunk of steel, and they still make these in Sheffield. Footprint has been around since the 1800s. By the way, Knipex has as well. Knipex has been around since like 1885 or something. And the fact that they've been continuously making these tools in Germany since is just fantastic. But a company that actually cares, so you can see the Footprint logo. You might not be able to see what it says, but it says made in England. And on the other side there, well, it's got what looks like a serial number. It says 78, so I'm guessing that's the date. And again, we've got the broad arrow. So again, made in the UK for use by, well, the state, essentially. Could be the military, could be I don't know, I just know it's a government marking, not necessarily the armed forces. Just something that gets me really, really excited. Now, one thing I would like to point out, I was saying about the companies that actually have their name stamped or forged in. That's how you know they care, because look at this. This is also a King Dick set of locking pliers. That's just, I don't know if that's lasered in or what. That will eventually rub off. That to me feels like King Dick did not care about this. And you know what? It doesn't say made in England on it. It doesn't say made in Sheffield. I don't like that. The reason is because that's not where it's made. I'm really annoyed about that, because I bought this as well as a set of King Dick Allen keys believing they were made in England. So I'm kind of going out my way now to buy European and American. Again, it's not because I hate anyone, it's just I want Western made tools. Tools made by people that we're not potentially going to war with. I'm sure there's going to be one or two people that is going to call me a racist or something. Can't really reason with those people. I've got no problem buying from the rest of the world. I've got a lot of knives made in China and I absolutely love them. In fact, hold on a second. That's made in China, probably. I'm not sure. Magnuson's not the greatest, they're also not the worst. But this has been my go-to socket set for 5 years. I bought this for maintaining my pit bike. I've got a 140cc pit bike, which unfortunately I can't ride anymore. Nonetheless, this is what I've been using, and it's done all the maintenance I've needed. Most of the maintenance I've needed, to be fair, is just changing the inner tube when I get a flat tyre and tightening the chain, but this does it. I do wish it said where it was made though. And all my workshop machinery in here is made in China. I've got my drill press right there, it's an Axminster, made in China. Rather it was made somewhere else, but you know. I wanted to get a second hand one, by the way, a second hand English one, but there was none in my area at all. All of them were in England, and I wasn't really prepared to drive into England to get a drill press that may or may not work. My bandsaw, my table saw, my lathe. By the way, any woodworkers out there, I think Record Power are bringing their production back to the UK. That's fantastic. It's annoying for me because I've already got all the machines I need. I've got my lathe, I've got my grinder, my bandsaw. Bit annoying. Maybe I'll replace those with British made ones, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with wanting to buy things made by, well, local people, or as local as possible. In fact, for me, my system is, I'll try to buy things made in Fife or grown in Fife. So this is going to sound totally off topic, but like everyone else, I like to eat eggs. I always make a point of buying big and Scottish eggs from Asda because I want to support the people closest to me. I don't know where those are farmed. That said, my local butcher sells eggs that's basically made, grown or laid or whatever in the same town as me. So instead of buying big and Scottish, I'm going to buy those. So I try to buy made in Fife first when I can. Then I try to buy made in Scotland, which is not easy to do because there's almost nothing made here. Yeah, I know we make bagpipes, we make whiskey, we make shortbread. I don't use any of that. That said, I am looking for a proper Scottish woolen blanket. By the way, don't go to Edinburgh Woolen Mill for a Scottish wool blanket. None of it's made in Scotland, it's made in Korea. It just... I'm sorry, but there's nothing about it that's Scottish. If I can't buy Scottish, I'll buy British. So, I don't actually have anything British. Ah, here we go. I believe this is still made in Sheffield, this Ray Isles draw knife. This thing is absolutely fantastic for the money, by the way. £60, it's just a beautifully made tool. I think it's made in Sheffield. Where's that saw? Definitely made in Sheffield. If I can't buy British made, I'll buy European made. If I can't buy that, I'll buy American made. If I can't buy that, the rest of the world. I don't see anything wrong with that. It just sort of makes sense to me. So I might continue talking about other tools going forward. I guess it just depends on how people perceive this video. But I'm a massive fan of well-made tools. I don't want to be a tool snob, I really don't. I'm not going to bash anyone for buying cheap tools. I still have cheap tools and I still use them. But I like the idea of having something that'll always be there when I need it. Something that I can rely on and something that I could hopefully pass down. And continuing to use these lovely old tools is just... this just makes me happy. Like, out of everything you see here, this is probably what fills me with the most happiness. I don't know why. You know, I remember when I was at school, which really wasn't that long ago. I'm only in my mid-20s now. I remember when I was at school using record planes. At least I think that's what they were. Maybe they were Stanley, but I remember... I think they were actually Stanley's... Maybe not Stanley Sweethearts, but they were old Stanleys. It's funny that, because when I was at school I didn't really realise what I was working with. Now, the Tenon Saws, if I recall correctly, was basically just this. By the way, if you want an inexpensive traditional back saw and you don't have a couple £100 to buy a British one, and you don't want to go to the effort of repairing an old one from eBay or Facebook Marketplace, I wholeheartedly recommend the Spear & Jackson traditional back saw. These are made in Asia, but it's a very traditional saw, other than the fact that it doesn't have a sculpted handle. But we've got a beech handle. I don't think these are actually brass, I think that it's steel coated brass, but it does have a brass back and it has resharpenable teeth, and you can get these for £25. I really like this saw. It's made in Asia, and I'm probably going to buy a second one because it's such a good saw. Am I being hypocritical? A little bit, because I did just say I want to buy British, but I don't really have £200 to spend on a single saw. If you ever go on Thomas Flynn's website, by the way, just type in Thomas Flynn. Wow, they've got so many lovely tools. They really do. But I feel like it's having some of the. I feel like it's worth having some of them about. I'm not sure if I could really add anything to this. Oh yeah, one thing I've been wanting to say for quite a while is, you don't need to spend a silly amount of money on a sharpening system for your knives or the rest of your tools. I'm going to show you what Scotsman uses to sharpen his knives and tools, okay? Now, I made these boxes myself. Took a little bit of time, but it was worth it. This is an old carborundum stone. I'm not sure if it's a natural stone or a synthetic stone, but I think they are actually natural stones. This is an old one. I paid £8 for this, so this is my coarse stone. And I used reclaimed oak to make that box. It's not the perfect, but it'll do. And this is a Welsh slate, so this is my fine stone. And I made the box out of this from beech that was otherwise going on the wood chipper. So I'm quite happy with this. I've been using this for about a year now, and it's honestly all I need. Now, I also use a bench grinder because, well, it's a lot quicker. Honestly, if it's got a chip in it, I'd rather just take it to the bench grinder. Now, before anyone freaks out, I use water to cool it, but although it is a full speed bench grinder, it's got a whetstone on it opposed to a grinding stone, because it's set up for sharpening chisels on a, set up for sharpening lathe chisels. So I actually just ground some dings out of the blade on this, and then sharpened it on my carborundum and then the Welsh slate. This is less than £20 worth of stones right here, and that's all you need. You do not need to spend hundreds of pounds on Japanese water stones. You do not need to spend thousands of pounds on... What are those crazy sharpening systems? I'm sorry, but they're ridiculous. If that's what makes you happy, you do you. And I have thought about it myself, but for me this is all I need. But then again, I was taught how to sharpen by hand when I was 14 or 15. And I'm really grateful for that. In fact, my college lecturer, when I would come in, he would sit me down in front of a... I don't know what the machine is, but he'd have me grind the chisels for ages, and then he'd have me sharpen them by hand, and that was boring at the time, but I'm grateful for that now. I really am. because there's not very many things I can't sharpen, except, well, I'm not great at sharpening serrations. I can sharpen some saws, I can sharpen a chainsaw. I need to sharpen a chainsaw because I've got a qualification to do that, to use the chainsaw I mean. And augers. I really like, I don't have any to hand, but I really love these old braces. Anyway, I've yapped on enough. You've probably fallen asleep if you're still here. I might do more of this in the future. I don't really want to tell you what to do because, well, what do I know? I'm just an amateur. I'm just a hobbyist. That said, I'm hoping to find work in either forestry or tree surgery. I'm currently awaiting chainsaw training. I've got my certificate to fell trees up to 380mm, and I'm currently awaiting training for felling trees up to 760mm, and I'm really hoping to find employment after that because I've kind of been struggling with that. But who knows where this channel is going to go. I hope to do that sort of thing. I'm actually really inspired by Wrangler Star, or at least his older stuff. That's what got me into axes and chainsaws, and I'm sort of inspired by Texas Tool Crib as well. I just like the way he reviews Leatherman's and other hand tools. I've actually recently been enjoying some of his videos on Knipex tools. I don't know if Texas Tool Crib watches any of my stuff. He has watched one of my videos, so that's kind of cool. Hello if you do happen to see this, Ben. Quite enjoy your work. Right, I've blabbered on way too long. Thanks for watching and I'll see you later.